What screams I don't actually love my partner?
Ignoring their feelings or brushing off things that really matter to them.
Exactly. It's more than being argued with.
In my last relationship, I sat my partner down and said, I think we should end it. And they insisted that my feelings were wrong, that I didn't actually feel the way I thought I felt, and that there was nothing to discuss. I started that conversation with a lot of doubts, but I ended it completely confident that I had made the right decision. Life is far too short to waste time on someone like that.
One thing I'll never forget. I once told my ex that she made me uncomfortable during a gathering with friends. She burst into tears and ran to the bathroom. I broke down from the pain of not feeling heard or seen. Then she came out, hugged me, and apologized. The thing is, she never asked why. Her first reaction was to run away from the conversation, even though I was perfectly calm when I brought it up. When we were together, I always felt like she disliked it when I had feelings. Like she wanted me to be shallow, flat, but happy.
Treating them badly, especially in front of other people. I've been in relationships and seen others where one person makes their partner feel foolish or small in front of friends just to seek approval or make themselves look superior. It's unpleasant and truly sad.
I saw this happen in real time with coworkers, and I couldn't help but think, wow, if he treats her like that in public?
It's always worse behind closed doors. I'm lucky to have left the person who treated me that way. Grown enough to realize that I have worth and that I matter. And now I'm with someone who would never treat me badly just to impress others. She would never treat me badly, period. And I'm mature enough to give her the same love and respect that I receive every moment of my life. I just hope others can do the same and move on from relationships like that. It breaks my heart to see it.
Putting their partner on the back burner when it comes to their wants or needs. Everyone else, friends, family, always comes first.
Yeah, my ex always worried about me acting like the perfect, most social and polite saint in front of his family and friends. Got mad if I didn't say or do the right things to them. But didn't even give a thought to how they treated me. Whether they greeted or talked to me at all, it was only my responsibility.
Loving what they do for you, not really loving them.
It took me 15 years to truly accept that this was how my ex felt. It took me that long because I didn't think I deserved better and I hoped things would change. I wasn't perfect, but it was really hard to want to be better or to try when it felt like I was just a servant, and that if I stopped serving, the relationship would end.
Humiliating them in public and pretending it's a joke, looking at your phone while they're talking.
Reminds me of when my ex-wife would correct me in front of people whenever I said that I was a musician and a writer. Aside from my actual day job, she would correct me and say that I didn't play in a band or record music, so I wasn't a musician, and that I wasn't a writer because I wasn't published anywhere. Good riddance. Edit. A bunch of you seem to think I would introduce myself as a musician and a writer. That was never the case. I'm a computer engineer and would introduce myself as such when asked about my job. When asked what else I did besides my career, I'd say that I was a musician and a writer, because that's exactly what I did in my free time. I invite you all to look up the definitions of musician and writer and see that there's no requirement that you must make a living from the practice to be considered one.
When we plans turn into I plans really fast.
Yes, I once surprised my ex with tickets to see a band we both liked. Without telling me first, he invited his friend to use my ticket and went with him instead, while I stayed home watching the kids.
This truly unlocked a terrible memory for me too. My ex-wife once tried to surprise me with a visit to my parents since I was feeling so isolated and down in her home state. I thought that was so sweet. What a kind gesture. My parents were traveling back to Pennsylvania soon, and I thought that was perfect timing because I could meet them there instead of in Florida and get to see all my friends too. That was when I saw my wife's face change. She went from happy to almost disgusted. You, why go to Pennsylvania? It's going to be cold and gloomy there this time of year. Florida would be much better. When I insisted, since I'd get to see everyone, she told me I could go alone then. She wasn't interested in a Pennsylvania trip. It became clear to me then. It was never about getting me to where I'd be happiest visiting. She just wanted to escape the cold in Maine and get a free trip to Florida for the sun and beaches. My parents lived in Clearwater, so it would have been just 10 minutes from the shore.
Their ability to set aside their own needs for the sake of their partner. I see a lot of people who are very confident and focused on making sure boundaries are established in relationships. And while I absolutely agree that there should be boundaries, part of being in love is being flexible when it's needed. Some days are just tough, some days you're sick, and sometimes things happen where you need your partner's support to get through it. Yet I see many of my friends with partners who respond with, "Well, that's your problem, you figure it out," and I can't understand why they stay with them.
putting unnecessary stress and pressure on their shoulders because you can't be bothered to act like an adult.
I still remember a coworker of mine who kept saying how great his fiancée was because of everything she did. She worked longer hours, cooked, cleaned, took care of the pets, everything. The more he talked, the wider my eyes got. All I could think was, dude, she left him 2 months later. All I could think was, good for her.
When you politely ask them to stop doing something and they just keep doing it.
Or they just feel really bad about it. Every time I tried to bring up even the smallest thing, no matter how carefully I did it, my ex would shut down and fall into a spiral of self-blame, saying how terrible he was and that he was the worst person alive. I couldn't talk about anything because I was too busy trying to help him deal with his feelings. Even when I clearly expressed what I wanted, nothing ever changed. He just couldn't have a real conversation about it, so I eventually stopped trying. But when I talked about wanting to break up, suddenly he was able to talk about it.
When you take a back seat to everything else in their life. My last ex rarely invited me to hang out with his friends, always seemed to have plans on weekends, and his texting was infrequent and inconsistent. It felt like the relationship only existed on his schedule. When I first brought it up, he broke up with me a month or two later. So yeah, I don't think he genuinely liked me. My current partner, on the other hand, has introduced me to his close friends, spends time with me on both weekdays and weekends, and genuinely wants to see me. I remember feeling a bit insecure and told him he didn't have to invite me to things, but he made it clear he wanted me there. It really showed me that he values my presence and cares about me. Speak louder than words. No matter how nice someone's words are, if their actions don't match, they don't really mean it.
The whole in sickness and in health really puts things into perspective. My cousin and his wife had been married for almost 20 years. She was in a serious car accident and now can't walk and has limited mobility and speech. He left her within a year.
I feel this one in my soul. My wife was constantly using her mental health as a way to avoid taking responsibility. I don't mean that to sound dismissive. Mental health is an important matter. Not just in our relationship, but as an individual too. Anytime there was something she needed to take care of for herself, she'd push me to do it for her, or to use most of my energy helping her. For example, when she had to catch up on things she'd missed after leaving school. I would do what I could because I cared about her. But she'd become really argumentative if I wasn't up for spending hours in a classroom re-explaining everything the teacher said so she could understand. But the moment my own mental health started to struggle under the pressure of our circumstances, she distanced herself from the responsibility of her vows, saying things like, "Your mental health is your problem, not mine," or "You need to figure it out for yourself. It's not my job to look after you." Yet those vows were mutual. We both promised to support each other, in sickness and in health. So when I said, "I'm worried that our financial situation is overwhelming me," it wasn't her job to criticize or remind me about past expenses. It was her responsibility to step up, find a way to help, and support the life we were building together.
Share your experience in the comments. I'd love to know.